Good afternoon. This is Greg McCoach, editor of the Mining Speculator. I'm here in Vancouver, Canada with Chairman Bill Sheriff of Golden Predator Resources.
Thanks, Greg.
Bill, glad to have you. Glad we could catch you here for a quick interview while you're in town. So.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's get everybody caught up because we've been doing these interviews together now for the past, year and a half?
Yeah, quite a while.
And, we've seen a lot of volatility in our market. The share price has been all over, but ultimately, you keep doing the right things for the right reasons. You're building your computer model so you know where to do the drilling moving forward. Where do things stand right now, and what's next?
Well, thanks for asking. It's actually quite timely. We just have come out with our results from this year's deeper drilling. First time we've actually gone into the heart zone where we had very high-grade outcrop in veins, and we've drilled some 300, 400 meter holes and actually intercepted the structure as deep as 500 meters down dip.
Wow.
Which answers a lot of the problems we'd had. Some of the early speculation about the mineralization out there was, yes, it's widespread. We've got 13 square kilometer area with really good soil anomalies and over 30 different occurrences of free gold at the surface in different veins. But the question has always been, is there any continuity?
Right.
And by this year's deeper drilling, we've answered that. And it's got a little bit of egg on the face of some of our geologic staff, including myself, is that some of our previous models have been modified considerably.
Right.
We originally thought the folding contributed a lot to the mineralization, and it still does affect it. But the real bottom line is we've got pervasive structures, just high-angle faults, veins, in the traditional sense, that cut through rocks somewhat. Doesn't really matter what kind of rock material they cut; they're pervasive. They go through. There's minor offsets, and by minor I mean less than 10 meters typically.
Grade?
Some of them are bigger. The grade is spotty in terms of any drill hole now because we've drilled these things hundreds of meters apart.
Oh, okay.
But we definitely have some nice high-grade hits. What we're doing is we're using smaller core for this, and it doesn't, in my mind, it doesn't give us as accurate of a reading in terms of gold. It tends to underestimate because you're basically taking a small sample out of a very large piece of rock. So if your gold is chunky or nuggety, you don't stand as good a chance of getting it. Right. We've already known that that's worked on our property, and we've spent a lot of time doing the PQ large diameter drilling and the reverse circulation drilling. And then, of course, this last year we really got into the bulk sampling in earnest and did over 7,000 tons of bulk sampling that we'll start processing again in March. But we do these things to actually prove up the grade, because the bigger the sample you take, the more accurate reflection on the grade it'll be. And on nuggety gold deposits, you really can't take a sample that's too big.
Right.
So but at the same time, those are expensive means in terms of the PQ and the larger diameter drilling.
Of course.
So when we're exploring down deep on these really deep holes or along strike, and as we'll do even deeper holes in the future, we'll use the smaller core.
It makes more sense.
And what it is it's almost a way to determine if we're hitting the mineralized structure in the halo. We've also identified that we've got really big halos, 30 meter, 20 meter halos around these mineralized structures that are typically a half gram or better, those halos, oftentimes up to a gram. But they're really key in terms of being able to find that high-grade structure with a drill hole. Because you might miss it a little bit. You get in that envelope, you're near.
You know you're close.
And so you got to go through it, all the way through it. And it's just a much more economical way to delineate the structure on wide space drilling and establish hundreds of meters along strike and at dip, down dip. And then we can go back in with the RC rig and determine the grade for the given block of material.
Yeah. So you got a fairly large team in camp right now then, or?
Right now we don't. This year we didn't operate all year. We've only got 2 or 3 people in camp doing routine maintenance and that sort of thing. We'll pick back up again in the spring.
In the spring, okay.
And this year's budget probably won't be as much, but it'll be a lot more focused.
Right.
Here again, we'll be following up, continuing to do what we just did, where we expanded down dip so much. We're just really excited about that. Like I said, if you don't have connectivity and continuity, you don't have much. And we've established that. So we've done that. Plus, we've really enhanced our ability in terms of target. Before we're targeting a vein, 1 to 3 meters wide. Now we've got a 30-meter zone we can target. So our odds of hitting it are a whole lot better, and then we can home in on the real goodies. So we'll be doing some of both kinds of drilling. Some of the the larger diameter to establish the grade more reliably, as well as some of the smaller core to establish the structure and to know that it's mineralized.
Yeah. Now the tax loss selling, with stocks starting to creep back up a little bit, we're starting to catch some bids and some interest. I've been telling people yet still super undervalued. Obviously we'd all like to have a little higher gold price to start helping our market a little bit, but I believe it's going to come at some point. I just think with what's going on, the volatility that's out there in the markets, that it's good for us. Safe haven buying is going to only increase, and eventually that's going to spill over into the miners. So
I think it will, and we've focused on high grade and relatively near-term assets that could potentially go into production. And it's arguable that a good half of our company's Brewery Creek. We've got 850,000 oxide ounces sitting there that's economic at $1,200 gold. Obviously we'd like a bigger price to make it more economic, but we're doing some things internally to make that more productive ourselves. We're looking at different scenarios for the mine, the timing of the mine plan, the metallurgy, and those should be coming out this first part of the year. Cool. We started aggressively on it last year, and we found some wrinkles like you do every time you get into testing. You answer one question and you get 2 new ones.
Oh yeah.
But we're quite optimistic that we can improve the economics of Brewery Creek by a holistic approach to mine plan, metallurgy, sequencing of the mining, and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, with 2 good projects, again, share price is undervalued in my view. So, how about the bulk sample program? How's that doing? I saw the coins. We minted
it's very
some
good.
coins.
In fact, we just finished the second contest. Janet Lee Sheriff, the CEO, has been instrumental in these opportunities, and expansive opportunities in particular, involving the First Nation and the coins in particular. And we've just we'll be announcing the winner of the second First Nations coin. Yeah. And there's another coin coming out later this year that'll be just a Yukon white art contest. Yeah. And of course, we're using the gold from the operation, so it's all 100% Yukon origin materials.
A lot of fun. That's great.
And, you get a little premium on the price of gold, and you also get you keep jobs in the community, and you build some capacity. So it's it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, it's not just about making money. It's about community. So absolutely. You guys have always put that as a priority. And speaking of that, you have a very important meeting with First Nations at the PDAC this year.
That's right. Janet's got a keynote speaking session at the PDAC conference on the First Nation relations, and we're quite excited and quite honored to have that position.
Yeah, that's a real privilege. So congratulations to Janet.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up?
No, I guess maybe just the state of the industry. Everyone's always optimistic that everything's going to come back like gangbusters, but I guess I've been around this so long now that I'm starting to think, this year's the next year, but I'm tired of hearing myself say it. So the bulk sampling has given us a unique opportunity to realize that there are other ways to finance yourself, at least partially, without being dependent wholly on the financial markets and continual dilution, quite frankly. And at robust prices, the dilution isn't really an issue. Right. But at the prices we've endured the vast majority of the last decade, it's a problem. Yeah. And so I think we're going to see some new models come around, and I think there's so many companies around with $1 million or $2 million market cap that are spending $250,000 a year just on the minimum legals if no one's getting a paycheck. Right. Just keeping the company alive. And so I think that we're going to see what the big companies have done. The 2 big mergers we've had just this year in terms or in recent weeks of Barrick and Randgold and then Newmont and Goldcorp. I think you're going to see more of that because it puts the pressure on the next level down, the Agnicos and the mid-tiers, the Kinrosses and all of those guys. So I think you're going to see some more consolidation at the upper scale. I think you may see some consolidation at the mid-tier, and I think finally we're going to actually start seeing some of it at the at the lower and the junior end, because it really is needed there, where the cost savings is huge. Right. Of course. So many of these companies go out and raise $1 million and or less. Right. And you spend half of that before you even get to the field.
On all the regulatory stuff.
Yeah. You just aren't making much progress geologically. Right. So to team up and put some of those in the same basket, you'll get a lot more bang for the buck in the ground, and the shareholders will benefit a lot more, I think.
Well, I've seen that with the companies that are on tighter budgets, good teams, but unable to really get enough work done. Yep. But in the 3 years, they dilute themselves out of a position, and it just happens quicker now than it used to.
It does, and there seems to be less money. Many reasons for that. A lot of it is the choice of investments has grown tremendously, and during the last decade, you could have bought almost anything and done well. Yeah. In fact, maybe anything but mining stocks in some instances, but. The opportunity is still here. We're going to need resources. We're going to need more of them. That's not going to, but I think we maybe need to sharpen up a bit and run them more like businesses. And, instead of desperately hanging on until the next ability to finance, let's look for other ways to finance and create revenue for these companies. Right. and through ancillary or side businesses, what have you,
Yeah.
opportunities like we do with the First Nations.
Yeah.
They may not be much, but they build capacity. They keep the lights on.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly, our bulk sampling does a little more than that, but it's true desires for science. But the revenue is always a nice benefit.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But if you can limit the expenses
Right.
and put more of that money in the ground, we're going to have more discoveries. We'll have more good news. I think that'll help the industry as much as anything.
The market wants these high-grade discoveries. That's what they're paying attention to.
Absolutely.
So let's give it to them.
All right, we're going to do our part. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Bill.
Appreciate
Glad to
it.
have you.